This is a 2003 S-Type Jaguar. It's resetting a code for the upper knock sensor bad. So, I'm going to take the upper plenum and the fuel rail off of it. Hold this between the heads and the valley area. This would be like bank 2, and then the other knock sensor is above the starter, so it's bank 1, I believe. First thing, it's got a mount in the front under the throttle body, 10mm bolt, and it's got one underneath the passenger rear. There's a 10mm bolt. Looks like it's got a mess on the back there. I'm gonna get the plenum loose before I go unplugging anything back there. Oh, I took I was going to take the wires and the hoses off, but this electric throttle body plug-in's busted and it's glued on or something. I really don't want to disturb it, so I'm trying to work around that. I'm gonna take this bolt out of this mount. All the engine cover off, and it had this piece sitting on the valve cover, 2 5/16 or 8mm, holding it, and I got it out of the way. One of the 4 screws that holds the cover on sits in that, and set it up there. And it's got this black metal shield on the back corner. Had 3 bolts in it, one going through the intake straight down, and then 2, one up here, and one going through the intake on the bottom. That was a short bolt, this one, and a long bolt was in the middle of the plenum. That's this black plate protecting the fuel rail plug-in back there. So hopefully that won't cause a problem. Yeah, it looks like I just need to take 1, 2, 3, 4 out. I don't see any in the middle. I don't know how you get to them if there was particularly. I'll take this front one loose. Take these front guard bolts out. Or braces, whatever. It's a pretty short bolt, front mount. Take this one on the passenger side rear out. It's got a wire harness kind of in the way. Well, there just wasn't any way to get that plenum up out of there without unplugging the throttle motor. The little plug-in looks pretty beat. I'll have to deal with that, I guess, somehow. I just had to unhook 2 hoses and 2 plug-ins on the nose of it. I unhooked this cam position sensor trying to get some length out of this wire, but it just wasn't going to happen until it was unplugged. The brake booster vacuum line is really in there. I just left it in there. I didn't want to tear something up pulling it out of there. I don't know what's holding it in there, but once I got it forward some, I unplugged this, just pushing down on it and pushing back, and this one, and this one. The only mystery thing I seen was when it goes back in there, this vacuum line will have to go back up in this elbow. And just put it on there. It's starting to swell up. It may not even been on there. Who knows? The only risky thing too, this weren't running that off there. This body clip is for the beauty cover on the motor was moving around. If that falls down in the one of these ports. You might have some trouble getting that back out of there. I'm going to stick a camera down in there anyway and make sure nothing fell in there. But that's what's on the back side of it. 1, 2, 3 plug-ins, one vacuum line, one other line for the brake booster vacuum line. There's 2 vacuum lines. These rubber grommets, questionable whether they'll stay in there and not fall down the intake. Just have to keep an eye on them. I'm going to go ahead and use a 5/16 and unplug these coils and take them up out of there and change the spark plugs on this side. Looks like the O-rings are pretty good. Went ahead and disconnected the injector wire harness that was down behind here. I went ahead and ohmed all the injectors and pressured up the fuel system and checked the spray pattern on the injectors because I've been having some idling issues. It doesn't look like any of the injectors leaking off. I had a good V spray pattern down at the valves down in there. I need to unclip this fuel line, take it apart, unhook the temperature sensor, fuel temperature sensor, and the pressure regulator plug in. Then start taking the bolts out of the fuel rail. I think I'll take these intake manifold spacer plates up and check for bad O-rings underneath of it, for any vacuum leaks. I ohmed the injectors. That's pretty much the silver pins or the injectors. The one isolated silver pin is the power, and then the other silver pins are the grounds for each injector. And they was 13.7 ohms, all of them, and I think the ohms are supposed to be between 12 and 16 ohms is acceptable. I just used a 9-volt battery and some jumper wires. Fast way to test the spray pattern and not damage the injector. I'll unplug the knock sensor. It's right here. It's open. Well, I just pulled that whole contraption up. The fuel injectors, the rail, and those spacers. I'll tell you, it looks to me like these O-rings are pretty flat on the bottom. I would say that'd be a good source for a vacuum leak. Fuel line takes something like this to disconnect it. It's 5/8. Fuel line disconnect tool, and wrap a shock towel around it. Just shove it into that chrome deal. That's opening the spring up inside. Like that. I shoved some papers and towels down the ports before I started working. They were small screws, so nothing fell down in the cylinders. I might take a shop back and shop back all the trash out of there, the mice droppings. There's the knock sensor right in the middle of that mess. And get some new O-rings. I took some cleaner and cleaned out all the channels where the old seals were laying. These channels valves are ready for the new seals. There's a lot of loose stuff in there. Using an air hose to blow it all away worked well. Cleaned the deck off. Shot back all the junk out of the engine valley there. Get these new seals installed and set it back on there. All those bolts tightened down to 10 Newton meters. I went ahead and set the lower intake manifold down on there with some new seals under it, and then I filled all the bolt holes, even the ones from where the plenum passes through, with bolts, so that when I tighten down the 2 or so on each side, that's going to stay in there before the plenum goes on. The holes will be lined up for the plenum bolts to pass through. So I think these 2 up front on this side stay in there, and then these 2 in the back. And then I just stuck these longer bolts from the plenum in there, and one of the longer bolts from the plenum back here, and I just found a long 10mm and stuck it in there for a guide, so that this intake will bolt down square and stuff, just in case it tries to block one of the holes. And now just tighten them down. Got that all bolted down. It looks pretty good. And the harness is plugged back in. Need to clean the plenum up. These have something I didn't mention earlier. To get these hard plastic lines, like this is a brake booster line, the evap line, you collapse that ring down and then pull the line out. Take a pair of needle nose and push that ring down, and then that'll let the line slide out of there. Tuning valves. This is the back of the intake plenum. This is a time saver, but the inside runners have a bigger grommet than the outside ones. The bigger ones won't fit in between the runners, or down in them holes for that matter. So the little ones go on the outside, and 2 big ones on the inside runners. One in the back, one in the front. And the wire harness goes right back against the sensor. It don't actually go through this metal shield back here. It stays inside of the shield. Just comes back out toward the motor. Seems to be in good shape. Checking the fuel pressure on it. Should be in business.